Welcome to Pennsylvania in Focus. I'm Kristen Smith. A new Marist poll released Thursday shows former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris are tied in the race for the White House. Joining me today is the Center Square's Pennsylvania reporter, Anthony Hennon. Anthony, take us deeper into this poll and illuminate for us why these two might be so close.
Yeah, if you're wanting clarity here or a good read on who's going to win, this is not the place. This Marist poll, it's 49-49, Trump and Harris. There's some differences here, but this is going to be an extremely close race. Sometimes we get a little more clarity as we get closer to Election Day. That has not yet happened. So when we're looking through the details here, some things that jump out is 90% of likely voters that Marist polled with a candidate preference are strongly support their candidate. So, we have 49-49, we have 1% undecided and 1% another party candidate, third party candidate. When we're looking over some of these details, Trump is doing better among independents than he did in 2020. He's at 49% to 45% for Harris among independents. Back in 2020, he only had 44%. Harris is underperforming with them. Harris is also underperforming against minority voters. Biden received 82% support in 2020. But right now, Harris is looking at 59%. Unsurprisingly, Trump is leading Harris among men, 54-44, while Harris is leading Trump among women, 55-43. So again, we're seeing some changes from the last time around, but it's not yet clear how this is going to break down. Even though some of these percentages are much bigger than 4 years ago, still 49-49. It's a nail biter here, and it's not quite clear what's happening. When Marist polled other states, Harris is having a 5-point lead over Trump in Michigan, and I believe only a 1% lead in Wisconsin. But with Pennsylvania, it's really coming down to the wire here.
Pennsylvania has long been considered not only a battleground state, but perhaps the key battleground state in this election. And I think these polls are certainly pointing to that. If you go back and look at the Real Clear Politics polling average, the last 8 or so polls that have been that were conducted, I should say, since the debate on September 10th, shows that Harris was up as much as 5 points, according to Quinnipiac. But it seems that post-debate bump that a lot of analysts expected that she would have is pretty much gone now. You mentioned Marist, they're tied. Poll from the Hill and Emerson that was done between September 15th and September 18th. That has Trump up 1%. Overall, the average of the last 10 or so polls shows Harris is only up 1% as compared to President Joe Biden. He was up 4% on this day, September 19th in 2020. And Hillary Clinton was up 6.6 points in 2016. So you're definitely seeing Harris underperforming Clinton and Biden in big ways. Now, you mentioned that this poll doesn't bring a lot of clarity. In all honesty, how much stock should we really give to polls in general, given how unreliable they've been when measuring the Trump effect, let's just say?
Oh, who's to say? I'm not betting on any of them, if that helps. I think this is just one of those problems where I don't think we're going to have as big of an aberration as we did in 2016. It seems like a lot of polls learned from their mistakes, from how people respond or don't respond, and they kind of fine-tuned it. Again, I think 2020, the polls were a lot closer than 2016. I expect that to continue in 2024 as far as accuracy. I think we're starting to see more ways people have adjusted to. Younger people don't answer their phones for a poll. We're seeing more online engagement, et cetera, et cetera. So, I don't think we're being steered horrifically wrong by these polls. I think is at least useful for a barometer. But at the same time, these are so close that it's hard to really put stock in anything being more than a hunch. I think if you talk to people, you can talk to some undecided voters and they're still kind of wishy-washy. In some cases, I was in the Philadelphia suburbs last week, and even undecided voters who said they're a conservative household or they usually vote Republican, they were still undecided on how they're going to vote. So I don't know if that just kind of shakes out and that's something we see every 4 years or what exactly. But when the race is this close, it's hard to really put much stock into any of these numbers. I think generally the polls are going to be relatively accurate, but when they're this close, I mean, 1 percentage point can completely change the outcome. So it's hard to say, how much these polls could be misleading. It's a very close race, and who can really say what's going to happen? Or, I mean, we're still a little less than 2 months out. A lot can change between now and November.
Anthony, thanks for joining us today. Listeners can keep up with this story and more at thecentersquare.com.